Forget everything you think you know about the foundations of America's wealth. The reality is far more shocking than the mere acknowledgement of slavery as a cornerstone of its economic prosperity. The harrowing truth lies in the existence of grotesque human breeding farms that thrived in plain sight during the antebellum period of American history. This dark chapter is built upon a chilling secret. The economic vitality of the nation hinged not just on the institution of slavery itself, but also on the horrifying transformation of human beings into mere property. As the 19th century approached, significant resistance emerged against the transatlantic slave trade, and colonial powers found themselves unable to acquire new slaves from Africa. The vile forces of greed and evil then sought alternative methods to perpetuate their exploitation. Today, we delve deep into the unsettling history of these breeding farms, which became emblematic of the broader system of enslavement in antebellum America. Throughout the 18th century, a series of foreign laws and American legislations systematically stripped enslaved individuals of their personhood. This dehumanizing transformation explicitly recast them from being regarded as human beings to mere possessions, denying them all rights and leaving their welfare solely in the hands of their owners. As this toxic ideology became pervasive, the buying and selling of enslaved people gained a disturbing level of societal acceptance, with little to no pushback from the American populace. It is important to recognize that the supposed humanitarian move to prohibit the importation of enslaved individuals was anything but compassionate. Prominent figures like President Thomas Jefferson, who was not only a founding father but also a notorious slave owner, illustrated the cruel reality of this compromise. Jefferson fathered 6 children with Sally Hemings, a woman he owned, fully aware of the economic imperative slavery represented for the Southern states. Rather than seeking to abolish slavery or end the inhumane practice, the halt of new importation simply spiked the value of enslaved individuals who were already in America. In a disturbing turn, people became products, and enslaved women were seen as essential assets for breeding future slaves. By the time the 19th century began, Virginia, Jefferson's home state, had emerged as the leading producer of enslaved individuals, with the trade in slaves soon surpassing even tobacco as the most significant export. During this time, significant changes were unfolding in Britain, led by abolitionist figures like William Wilberforce, who campaigned vigorously against the slave trade. By 1807, the British Parliament took a momentous step by passing the Act for the Abolition of the Slave Trade, intensifying calls to end slavery in America. However, the economic benefits derived from slave labor, particularly in sugar, cotton, and rice production, ensured that the institution of slavery in the United States would only grow more profitable. The phrase "King Cotton" illustrated the South's dominance in cotton production and its economic rivalry against the abolitionist North. With profits from cotton soaring, Southern confidence reached such heights that Southern leaders believed the North would avoid any armed conflict. Ironically, as the internal demand for slave labor escalated just as the cotton gin had revolutionized production processes, Congress and President Jefferson endorsed a ban on further slave imports. The 1808 Prohibition Act effectively secured the internal slave market, allowing existing slave owners to engage in forced breeding programs, which chillingly referred to their practices as natural increase. Under this system, enslaved women became subjects of a perverse economic strategy. The brutal reality was that these women, some as young as 12 or 13, were expected to bear multiple children throughout their short lives. Many women were treated as breeding stock, a horrifying term used to advertise their value in the slave market. Their offspring would be ripped from their arms and subjected to the same horrors of enslavement. The human cost of this breeding program was staggering, transforming women into mere vessels for reproductive labor while stripping them of autonomy and dignity. By the mid-1800s, the slave economy was estimated to be worth around $4 billion. a figure that eclipsed the national income derived from gold, silver, and other financial resources. Moreover, as the dehumanization intensified, the institution of slavery evolved into a lucrative financial enterprise. By the 1830s, Southern slave owners began to mortgage their slaves in the same way one might secure a home or land, giving rise to a new class of banking institutions that profited from the trade of human lives. The systemic cruelty of turning people into property only deepened as enslaved individuals became collateral for loans and financial instruments traded even in regions where slavery was outlawed. The establishment of breeding farms exemplified the grotesque reality of America's underbelly, where the bodies of enslaved women were treated as machinery, mechanically grinding out profits with every birth. This chilling exploitation was hardly concealed. It was met with acceptance and even pride among some of the nation's most powerful figures. Ultimately, the narrative of America's wealth is not one characterized by freedom and innovation, but rather by terror, systemic control, and the unconscionable cruelty inflicted upon countless individuals. As we examine these historical truths, we must confront the reality of what occurred and ensure we learn from the darkest chapters of our past to prevent similar atrocities from ever happening again. Let us not turn a blind eye. Instead, let us acknowledge with unwavering clarity the full scope of America's troubled history and strive to honor the memory of those who suffered through remembrance and education. Thank you for taking the time to engage with this important discussion. Subscribe to Historic Horizon and hit the bell icon to explore more captivating stories from Europe's rich past. Like, share, and comment to support our journey and help us bring history to life for everyone.